Hello, my name is Michael Fakhri, and I am the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this very important event. However, due to my schedule and time difference, I can only provide a recorded video. I'm not going to go through the details of the horror of Gaza today. For 20 months, we, as independent human rights experts, myself and others, have raised the alarm over and over. We knew there was a risk of genocide starting in October 2023. We knew there was a famine and declared a famine a year ago. And yet here we are today with the horror continuing. And we've seen also Israel continuing to announce its starvation campaign. It announced its intents on October 9th, 2023, to starve the civilians in Gaza. And that's in fact what they did and that what they've been doing. And then most recently, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on March 1st announced that nothing was to enter Gaza. And that's in fact what happened from March 2nd to May 19th. No food, no water, no fuel, no medicine, no nothing entered Gaza for approximately 78 days. And to put this into context, Israel has laid siege against Gaza for 25 years since the year 2000. And so we are really at the point now where we're watching people die from hunger, and malnutrition and related diseases from a weakened immune system at horrific rates. Um, and yet Israel continues. And let's remember, Prime Minister Netanyahu announced this round of the starvation campaign, all while there's an outstanding warrant for his arrest and the arrest of former Israeli Minister of Defense Gallant. And part of the allegations is the war crime of starvation. This is the first time anyone's been charged with the war crime of starvation since the creation of the International Criminal Court. The International Court of Justice back in January recognized that there is conditions of famine and starvation in Gaza. Through my work and my reporting, I found also that there's famine and starvation. It's not just that Israel is denying and restricting humanitarian aid. Israel is also attacking the UN. There's a number of reports over the last 20 months of Israel attacking humanitarian convoys, of Israel attacking civilians seeking aid, of Israel attacking UN headquarters and killing a record number of UN staff, shooting at UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon. And so I've heard ambassadors say that when Israel attacks the UN, it's attacking the world. It's also not just about humanitarian aid. Israel has been destroying the food system in Gaza by decimating fishing boats, by destroying orchards and greenhouses, by using white phosphorus, which poisons the soil, by destroying the water infrastructure. And so Israel is denying the Palestinian people's ability and their right to feed themselves today and in the future. So this is clearly a systemic campaign to humiliate, weaken, and deny the Palestinian people the ability to feed themselves. And then Israel then created the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, working closely with the American government. This started operating in late May, around May 25th. And even before it started operating, back in April, the Secretary General and the head of every UN humanitarian agency said this plan is not a humanitarian plan. This plan is a military plan. The UNICEF already said this was going to be a system to bait, to trap civilians. And unfortunately, this is in effect what has happened. So Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites are militarized sites in which now there are continuous reports. So many people, over 100 people, have been killed by either Israeli forces or American mercenaries when they're trying to seek aid. So what is at stake here is that Israel has been using food and aid and starvation as a mechanism to humiliate, weaken, and kill the Palestinians as part of a larger strategy. And they've told us what this strategy is. It is to fully, indefinitely occupy Gaza, but all Palestinian territories, and ultimately annexation of the remaining Palestinian territories. There's a record number of violence and displacement that's happening in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. So yes, Gaza is the most horrific, but we're seeing Israel's broader strategy is the ultimate annexation of the remaining Palestinian territories. What can be done today? First and foremost, governments now are realizing they must act. Finally, after 20 months, we're seeing stronger statements by heads of state from all over the world, Western countries, developing countries, the global South. But we still need these words to turn into action. In the immediate term, countries can use the UN system to do something. When the Security Council is deadlocked because of a veto, as they are now, the General Assembly has power. So we see the US regularly veto any Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire. Where there's such a deadlock at the Security Council, the General Assembly has the authority to call for peacekeepers to accompany humanitarian convoys to enter into Israel. That needs to happen today to stop the starvation campaign by Israel. Second, what countries can do is they must honor and execute the warrants by the International Criminal Court, but more importantly, they can use their own national criminal laws to make sure that Israeli war criminals are charged and held accountable for what they've done. And I'm seeing more and more countries, such as New Zealand, starting to screen Israelis who've served in the military, in the armed forces and military. And to try and screen out war criminals from entering the country in the first place. So this is what can happen in the immediate term. But in the more medium term, what countries must do is impose sanctions against Israel, broad-based sanctions, not just sanctions against settlers, but sanctions against the state of Israel. They're authorized to do so by the International Court of Justice in its recent decision finding the Israeli occupation to be illegal. The Court of Justice authorizes countries to sanction the state of Israel to make sure that Israel complies with international law. I wish you all the best for this important webinar and thank you for focusing on this issue.